Hey guys, Corey, Famous Media, and today we're looking at the 50 megapixel Canon 5DS. So guys, it's finally here, the Canon 5DS, 50 megapixel camera. Now let's start off, it's got the dual Digic 6 processors. It'll shoot from 100 to 6400 ISO. It's expandable from 50 ISO to 12,800. Now, just to touch base, it does have the same overall feel as the 5D Mark III with the exception of a couple of things. The shutter is much quieter and it also doesn't bounce, as Canon has implemented some technologies in the bottom part of the mirror so that this way when the shutter actuates, it's not as shaky. Now the bottom is also more sturdy and the camera feels a lot more solid than the 5D Mark III. Menus are relatively the same. Now I want to point out that this camera does not shoot 60p and 1080. You're only going to get 30p, although the video footage to me is significantly sharper and overall better than the 5D Mark III. However, again, like the Mark III, you're not going to get 60p. Now, back to this camera as far as photography is concerned, I was expecting the camera to not be too good in low light. I was expecting a typical medium format or something similar to the D800 or D810 where there'd be some noise once you get above 3200 or 6400. This camera I used with my photographer at a wedding last night and there was absolutely no noise. We were shooting at 6400 in the dark, even with no flash, and the images were great on the dance floor. When we turn the flash on, we're able to jump it down to 800 or 1600. The images are stunning. The colors are amazing. It's not just resolution that you're getting from the 5DS, but also color tones, and the low light performance is just astounding. Now, there's no way for me to sit here and say for sure, is it better than the 5D Mark III? Well, I'm not really sure offhand, so I can't really say, but I would definitely go ahead and say that it's very close, if not equal to, but you're getting 50 megapixels. The resolution is stunning and the file sizes aren't that big. They're about the same as uncompressed D800 images, which are right around 70 megapixels. Or excuse me, it's about the same as the D800 is uncompressed, which is about 70 megabytes per file. Now you can shoot large RAW, medium RAW, small RAW. There's different sizes, like 24 megapixel, 52 of course. I believe there's a 39 and a 12, and you can do that with JPEG or RAW. So let's hit the streets and let's get to shooting. But I want to point out one quick thing. I have set my servo mode right here as a quick menu. This way I can go into tracking while I'm holding it or release it to go to single point. It has 61 autofocus points, 41 which are cross type, and the tracking on this camera is stunning, 5 frames a second. So the difference about this screen is it's got 150,000 pixel metering RGB plus infrared. So it's overall just a much better package than the 5D Mark III, and I would say at least as equal to in low light, and you get the 50 megapixels, better processing power, better colors overall. So it's a great camera. Enough of my jibber jabber. Let's go ahead and get to shooting. On a 32 gig card, shooting RAW and JPEG, you get about 243 photos, and the battery will last you about 300 shots. Let's get to shooting and let's check it out. Of course, I got the 24 to 105 on the camera. The menus are really awesome. So they're just like the 5D Mark III, easy to get through. And I'm just gonna go and make sure that I'm shooting redundant so I have JPEGs as well. And they're both set as large as they can go. And like I said, you can shoot 12 megapixel, 28 megapixel, or the 50 megapixel in RAW. Your RAW is 8688 by 5792, significantly larger than the D810 or the A7R from Sony's, which are like 7300. So this is 8600 wide, so it's a lot bigger files. You have your HDR and multiple exposures right here in the menu, so I'm gonna set it. And here we go. Let's get my ISO down, because we definitely don't want to shoot high ISO right now. Gonna set it to 200. And the tracking is stunning. It's really fast. Manhattan on Sundays is always awesome. I don't feel that there's as much dynamic range in the 5DS as there is in, say, the D810. Then again, these are raw images and I haven't edited them yet, so I won't really know until I actually edit them, but I do know the low light performance is drastically better than the 70 or the 5D Mark II, and it's 50 megapixels, although that is outdated technology. This is right in there with the 5D3, like I've said. I think it may actually be a little bit better. I'm gonna kind of try to find that out, look into it, because I'm gonna compare it to a 5D3 at some point, because I'm curious myself. It's a great camera. I actually really want one, but I'm deciding between the A7R2 or the 5DS. And whatever sharpness you're seeing out of the photos here, you can obviously imagine how much sharper the 5DSR is going to be. The shutter is very quiet. Tracking is lovely as always. It feels good in the hands. It's about 850 grams. 50 megapixels just looks so darn good. Just for fun, I'm gonna try the in-camera HDR. Let's just try that. You can change between art standard, vivid, bold, embossed. Let's do vivid. We're gonna do one shot only. It'll automatically align the image. It'll save all images with the HDR, or you just get the HDR. That's a great thing to have them all and the HDR image at the same time. And you can go all the way up to 3 EV. So that's what we're gonna do right now. It takes 3 photos in a row. I chose to save the HDR only image. It's processing. It's gonna take a few seconds to process because that's 150 megapixels of processing. So you're looking at 180 megs worth of processing in camera. So it's combining the photos and aligning it. That's probably the most gorgeous HDR image I've ever seen, ever. I'm gonna do one more because I really, really like that, and the ability to shoot and save all your photos and change from vivid and all these different picture styles. I just did another one. It is gonna take a few seconds to process again, but that's fine. I used it at a wedding last night with my photographer, Jim. We used it all night. I've been using it all weekend, and I will say 100% fact. I know a lot of people have said that, you know, I review a lot of Nikon, but I am not a fanboy of Nikon at all. Straight honestly, I actually like Sony a lot, and I love Blackmagic, and this 5DS is just astounding. In fact, I'm gonna be picking one up almost for sure between this or the Sony A7R2. For me, it's all about the tool. If the tool fits my needs and performs great, this is all I see as a camera. The name don't mean nothing to me. I really like all cameras. I'm trying to review a lot more stuff. Hopefully I'll get into some Pentax stuff. Right now I'm doing Canon, Blackmagic, Sony, Nikon, so we'll hopefully get some more stuff going for you guys. This image is absolutely gorgeous. I'm gonna go ahead and try one more time here on a different setting just to see what bold or embossed would look like. I'm curious of how that's going to look. There may be a little bit of blur from people moving, but for landscape work, you'll see how the image is stunning. Fold looks pretty good, although I like Vivid better. It's really crispy with the bowl. Let's try embossed. The camera is just stunning. I'd have to say that if there's a camera on the market that can compete with this, the only one is the A7R II. This, quite frankly, is a better camera than the Nikon D810. But I won't really know about dynamic range until I do some more testing when I edit this video. And here we are on Father's Day. I just got out of an event this morning, and here I am doing a video for you guys, still in formal gear, just so that I could bring you guys the amazing 5DS video. You can do bracketing up to 7 shots. I'm gonna do natural. The shutter is so quiet and it doesn't make any vibration. Like, I honestly don't even know it's taking the picture. I can barely hear it and I can't feel anything. Like, typically with a shutter, you can feel the clank, as on the D800 or D800E. The D810 was much better, much quieter, but this is almost non-existent, which is a good thing, but I really can't hear it or feel it. So the tracking right there on that vehicle is phenomenal. I'm able to track just by pressing the quick menu button, which I've done right here, which allows me to turn servo on or off. And if you want to move your focus points around, you just press this button right here, and then you can move it around with this little joystick, or D-pad, whatever you want to call it. You can have your selectable AF however way you want. You can adjust it, adjust the settings for it. Just stunning images. It's beautiful. Tracking is phenomenal. Everything looks really good. 50 megapixels is almost too much. Almost. I still enjoy it. Oh, I almost walked in the water. Hey, Johan, don't walk around. Actually, go to the water. I dare you. I'm always bugging Johan. I could take a picture of him, but I can't see him because he's got this big rig for the A7S. Looks pretty cool. You want to say hi, Johan? Want to peek around? Pretty cool. Not too shabby. I'm going to take a shot right here and then we'll test out some video. I'm gonna hit my AF drive button on the top, and I'm gonna turn it from servo to 1 shot. Beautiful images. So let's go ahead and test the video out. I know a lot of people that are looking at this camera really don't care about the video, but we'll just try it anyway. I do have it set to 1080 24, and I'm just going to double check that that is indeed the case. So here we go. Looks pretty good. Dynamic range is definitely better over the 5D Mark III or the 7D Mark II. and it looks like it's got much finer detail. The overall clarity is better. The quality of the video out of this camera is great. If you don't need 60p and you're looking for a photographer camera that's going to do high-res photos, especially like medium format, this is the camera for you. Even for video, it's pretty much great. It'll do 23p and 30p in all eyes, so you don't really have to worry about the video quality unless you need 60p. And if you need 60p, then you're really not looking at this camera anyway, because it's medium format territory for photographers. The best way to shoot with the Canon is to definitely expose for highlights if you can without blowing them out too badly. This way you can bring up the midtones and the shadows and post a little bit. You get the most out of your dynamic range. And using a custom Canon picture profile would be good, which I don't have, unfortunately. So you'll be able to do even better than I'm doing if you have those profiles as well. So that's more dynamic range you can squeeze out of it. You can just touch your info button while you're recording to get audio meters, and you can also get histogram information. I just absolutely love how quiet this camera is. And the shutter has no vibration. You could really get down like I was doing last night and shoot it 1/5 of a shutter, even down to 1/3 really. I mean, I could get down even further than that with it if you're pretty steady. I got down to 1 second, and there was a little bit of blur, but not too bad. That guy almost got run over by that car. Like, literally. People need to learn how to drive. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be wondering, so since there's 50 megapixels, why are you shooting on a 24? That's a good question. I'm going to change it to the 16 to 35, and we're going to get a nice landscape shot, because that's what this camera is really designed for. But you can use it for studio portrait work, of course, because if you're using a really sharp lens and you're shooting with proper studio lighting, you're going to be getting the highest quality images possible. You're right in there with medium format, so if you do magazine work, editorial work, high-end portrait work for studios, magazines, this is the camera for you. So here we are at 16 millimeters. We're going to go to f8. Let's get all the sharpness that we can. Just fantastically beautiful. It's just stunningly gorgeous. Let's do HDR again. I'm gonna go to art standard. Now it's gonna process. This camera is definitely on my to-buy list. I love this camera. Canon has finally done it. I feel like they've been working on this for some time, because let's face it, Canon's 22 megapixel and 20 megapixel and 18 megapixel sensors have been around since the first 7D and 5D Mark II came out. So this has been a long time coming. Absolutely love the images coming out of this. They almost don't even need editing, really. Just awesome. camera's amazing. Quite frankly, it's gonna be hard to outdo this camera. I'm gonna go out to the street and risk getting hit like always. Don't worry guys, I'm not suicidal or anything.
So here we go off to the low light test, which of course is a waste of time for the 5DS because it doesn't really have any noise below 6400 ISO, and even then it looks more like film grain. This camera leaves no traces of evidence leaning towards noise. In fact, as far as evidence is concerned, this kind of thing is what puts forensic technicians and detectives out of business and out of work, if you know what I mean. This camera is just so darn good in low light, and because of the fact that the sensor is 50 megapixels and the photo sites are extremely small and fine, you'd expect there to be all kinds of noise. However, this is not the case, and there really isn't much noise. It's more like a film grain. As you can see at ISO 6400, it looks great, and in fact, in certain circumstances, the noise that the 5DS is producing here would be more desirable over a clean image. At ISO 12800, it is getting a little rough, but again, look, it looks like film grain. Okay, so the 5DS is a trickster here. You thought it was great on photo, but watch the video. With the H.264 compression on top, it pretty much eliminates all of the noise and film grain, so there's practically none. This camera just boggles my mind how it works, but as you see, ISO 1600, it looks better than 5D Mark II does at 640. So we move along here to ISO 3200, and there's zero noise in the image, and if there is noise there, I can't see it, and I'm sure you can't either. 6400 ISO looks spotless. This is much better than the 7D Mark II or the 5D Mark III. Here we are, 12,800. Yes, that image is stunningly clean for video. So here we go on to the ISO sharpness test. Here we are at 100%, and it looks really good. Let's go ahead and crop in 300% and see how sharp it really is. And it is marvelous. Tack sharp, it looks fantastic, and the 5DSR will be even sharper. The Canon 5DS and 5DSR may be a few years behind the Nikon D800, D800E, and D810. However, they've done it right. The 5DS and the 5DSR provide stunning low-light performance, and the noise that you see is more like film grain. The video is pretty good in its own right, but this is more focused on photography. The overall image quality and features of the 5DS and 5DSR are exactly what landscape, portrait, and high studio photographers are going to be wanting. And also wedding photographers. The ability to crop in is endless. And with image sizes at 8688 by 5792, you're going to be able to crop forever and back and still have an amazing high-res image. Landscape photographers are going to be super excited to find out that they've dampened the shutter, balanced it better, and made it quieter. So now you can go to slower shutter counts, and you won't have to worry about using mirror up anymore, because that's going to be a thing of the past, because the mirror just doesn't slam or make any vibrations anymore. It is splendid. And keep in mind, these images today are from the 5DS. The 5DSR is going to be even sharper. It's been a long time coming, but Canon has finally done it. Those days of low ISO medium format shooting at 1 frames a second is over. 5 frames a second, film-like noise grain, all the way up to 12,800 ISO. Without a doubt, this is the best DSLR on the planet today. All the features of a DSLR with a high megapixel count of a medium format camera. Thank you so much, Canon, for finally delivering. Show the medium format the door. It's finally here. The medium format camera in disguise. It's the 5DS and the 5DSR.
So guys, the Canon 5DS, and of course the 5DSR, which is better, is mind-blowing. To say the least, I'm extremely impressed, and I really want one. There's no denying that even though that I shoot on Nikon mainly for photos, that the 5DS is the best DSLR ever made when it comes to photos. Now, the video is very impressive and looks great. I just don't think it's up to par with, say, the Nikon D810 or the Sony a7S or the new a7R II coming out. But the 30p 1080 video looks great. Now, one thing to mention about the 5DS and the 5DSR, which is going to be identical except sharper due to the low pass cancellation, is the fact that the low light capabilities are so much better than I thought. Shooting at 3200 ISO is made easy. 6400 doesn't matter. I've shot at 12,800 and expanded the ISO range to max it out, used fill flash, and the noise was absolutely minimal. To give you guys an example of what I'm talking about is 6400 ISO on the 5DS or 5DSR is about the equivalent of shooting on the 5D Mark II at about 800 to 1600 ISO. Now, while shooting with a 5D Mark III, they're on par with each other, although the 5DS does look to be just a little bit cleaner. Now, when I say clean, I don't mean smooth. The noise coming out of the 5DS at high ISO is so fine, it's very filmic looking, and it looks really, really good. So you're getting the medium format as per se the Hasselblad HD50, but you're getting the DSLR low light capability and compact shooting factor, and it takes Canon EF lenses. And with a Nikon to Canon EF adapter, you can use Nikon lenses too. So why go with medium format? This is the dream camera for landscape or real estate photographers or high-end portrait photographers in the studio. If you're a wedding photographer, this will be a dream come true at 5 frames per second burst and the AI servo mode and all different kinds of custom function tracking. Like I said, this camera is just flawless. If you guys are looking for a high-end medium format camera and a DSLR package, if you're shooting on Nikon, I don't know what to tell you, because this right here is the clear winner. This is king of the hill right now, at least until the Sony A7R Mark II comes out. Then we'll truly see if the Canon still is the best camera for medium format style shooting. Although it is mirrorless, so that kind of puts it in a different category in its own right. Don't forget to subscribe, guys, if you haven't already. Hope you like this video. And if you want to purchase this 16-35 Canon L or the 24-105 L I was using, or the 5DS or 5DSR, please use the links below in the information box to support this channel and keep the reviews coming. So guys, have fun from Manhattan on Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to everybody out there. I'm Corey with Famous Media. Subscribe and happy shooting.